Yesterday I had a great day at Smackdown here in Greenville, South Carolina. And like I do at every single live show that comes in my area, I went and stood outside all day and cheered for some wrestlers, tried to get them to come down, take some pictures with the fans, sign some autographs, and had a great time. Stayed and watched the show and everything. I thought it was a very good show. So yeah, let's get into the people that we met. First up, we got Mia Yim right there. Here's my picture with her. And not only that, here's a video of where she signed the encyclopedia. And then there was L.A. Knight, yeah. But unfortunately, I missed out on him. I mean, I was right there at the front of the line. We got there extremely early. But he said, I'm going to do three autographs on this side and three on this side, or three pictures, whatever. Three on this side, three on that side. And I just ended up not being one of the three. But, I mean, it was cool because he was, like, literally right there in front of me. And then we got the general manager, Nick Aldis. He's just became a guarantee one. Seems like every single show we go over to, he's a very nice guy. He takes his time, signs autographs, takes pictures. He's just such a nice guy. Thank you to Nick Aldis. Next up, we got Byron Saxton. He's always really nice as well. He always likes when we start a nice little chant for him. We go yell, Byron, Byron. And so, he kind of starts dancing. He did a little yeet. He was doing the throwing his hands up and yelling yeet and all that. So he's always fun. He's just a funny guy overall. Thank you to Byron. But he had actually already signed my encyclopedia, so I didn't need him in there. And then we got Santos Escobar. This was a very, very cool one. So glad to meet him. The picture kind of chopped my head out a little bit, but there's the picture, and here's his video of where he had to sign the front page of my encyclopedia just because he doesn't have his own designated spot. And then the biggest one, it's got to be Bailey. This was so, I was so excited when I saw Bailey come around the corner. She laid her stuff over to the side, and then she started walking down. I thought I was going to go crazy. I mean, I love Bailey. I've actually met her before, but that was a long time ago, back when she was the hugger and literally just came up to the main roster, I believe. And so, yeah, I was just so glad. And I didn't even have my encyclopedia at the time, so she got to sign my encyclopedia. So glad to be able to meet Bailey. So, yeah, not as much as we had last time. The last two times I've stood outside the Bon Secours Wellness Arena, we've got just like a crazy amount. I think it was 15 the last time, and the time before that, we got 13. So last time was unbeatable. We got Rey Mysterio, DIY. It was just crazy. Today, they were actually kind of driving the wrestlers straight through the door. So some of them, we couldn't even see them whenever they got out of the car to chant for them. So those were kind of just definite ones we knew we weren't going to get. And plus, there's just not as many people on the SmackDown roster as there was because the last show that we went to, it was Raw. And their roster is a lot bigger. But yeah, no matter how many we got, I mean, Bailey really carried it all. And Santos Escobar was cool. All of them were cool. And so, yeah, that was fun. And then we got our seats. Here we were. And I actually forgot to include a picture video of it. But I did get one of the poster type things signed by L.A. Knight. I always get one of those. I think it's 11 by 17. I don't even know what size it is. But it's just a little print. It's a little art print of L.A. Knight signed. And then the ring announcer for the night was Alicia Taylor. So then they went to film for WWE main event, the Street Profits versus Angel and Berto. And for being a main event match, it was actually kind of decent. I'm going to give it a B-. And then Corey Graves came out. And then we got ready for WWE Speed. They were going to film some of WWE Speed at the beginning of the show. Then we actually got another Speed match after the show, which we'll get into later. You got first up Giovanni Vinci and going against Sheamus. I always love Sheamus's entrance at the live shows. It's so cool. And of course, WWE Speed, even though they actually left the main event ropes or whatever it is, as you can see, it says main event on the skirts or whatever it is. But I promise you it was WWE Speed. So, of course, it was going to be a fast match because I think it's 3 minutes that they have. But I'm not totally against WWE Speed. Some people don't like the idea. I don't think it's a horrible idea. It's just a nice little, if somebody asks, well, what's a good WWE match to watch? You could give them, not everybody wants to take an hour out of their day to go watch Ricky Steamboat versus Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart. No, they're amazing matches, but everybody has the time to go watch that. So it's a nice little, just fun little short match. But yeah, it was actually pretty decent. I'm going to give it a C+. Then Michael Cole comes out to the ring. Then they start off SmackDown with Jimmy Uso coming out to the ring. Got to start off hot. He starts talking junk about Solo, then Roman Reigns comes out. I'm kind of just going to do a little short summary of everything that happened. I can't go in full detail and tell you guys everything that they said and all this, because I'm sure most of you probably watched the show. So then they kind of talk about Roman's bloodline needing help, how they need to find help, they're outnumbered. And then Jimmy Uso kind of hints at it being Jey Uso. But then Roman gets on the mic and says, "No yeet." And then that's the end of the promo. I mean, I thought it was great. It was a nice little cliffhanger to know what's going to happen next. Will Jey Uso get involved? So I'm going to give it an A-. Then Carmelo Hayes came out to the ring, followed up by L.A. Knight. Yeah. The U.S. title was on the line, and Andrade was actually ringside for the match. He really didn't get involved. I mean, he had a few little yelling matches with each of them, but nothing too crazy. L.A. Knight retained the belt, and I give it a solid B rating. And then it was their first main roster match, Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend. I absolutely love this women's tag team, so I was so excited to see them making a little appearance on the main roster. They're not called up yet, but it was nice to see them on there. But their entrance was actually rudely interrupted by Kevin Owens. So Kevin's talking junk about how it's not his fault, it's Cody Rhodes' fault, that's why he did it. So then Cody Rhodes comes out to try and fight him. Of course, then here comes security. Security's holding back Cody, and they're holding back KO. So then here comes Randy Orton. Randy Orton gets past security. They're not really actually stopping Randy Orton. And Randy Orton just looked like he was trying to maintain peace. But then, of course, him and KO got into it. They threw each other to the ground. Then eventually, Randy and Cody walked away, of course, having security trying to get them out of there. So, I mean, it was a nice little feud builder segment. I'm not really going to rate it. I'll just give it a thumbs up. And then actually during the advertisement break, I believe it was, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven came out to sit ringside. And then the storm is coming. Jade Cargill came out to the ring and followed up by Bianca Belair, her tag team partner. And then here's a little video I took while at the show when I spotted Trick Williams. Before they showed him on the TV and were showing that he's just going to be sitting ringside.
I spotted Trick Williams, everybody. I don't know what he's here for, but I spotted Trick Williams.
And then it was shown that he's the NXT champion and that he'll be sitting ringside. At first, I mean, all I see is Trick Williams in the crowd. What am I thinking? He's going to come attack somebody? I don't know. That was really what I thought. Hey, honestly, that'd be a nice little debut here in Greenville, South Carolina. He's a former South Carolina Gamecock wide receiver. I think that'd be cool. I'd really like to see it. So finally, after all that, the match finally got started, but the match ended up being short anyway. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was just very short. It felt like it just ended very fast. But in this short amount of time, Liv Morgan did manage to try to get involved with the match, try and cheat and all that, but she ended up just getting thrown onto the announce table. So yeah, I guess you could say that's the highlight of the match. But of course, Jade and Bianca ended up getting the win. I thought Lash Legend had a great performance in the amount of time that they gave her in this match. But they definitely should have let it go longer, because I'll talk about it in the next match. Naomi versus Nia Jax went longer than I thought it would. I mean, they kind of let that stretch out and go a lot longer than expected. So why couldn't you just take a few minutes off of that and at least a few minutes and add it on to here? But I'm going to go with a C as the rating. And then it was time for Nia Jax to come out. Nia started talking about how Tiffy should cash in on Liv Morgan. And actually being in the crowd, I had seen Liv Morgan come into the arena in car that day. So I knew Liv Morgan was somewhere around there. I didn't know if she would get involved or she was just here to film backstage segments, but I knew she was in the building. But while she's telling her to cash in on Liv Morgan, Naomi ends up coming out here. And good job to Naomi. Naomi cut a great promo. She was serious and everything. She didn't back down to Nia. She got in her face and she's like, I want to have this match right here between me and you. So we ended up getting Naomi versus Nia Jax. And so right when the ref was on the way to make the match official, here comes Liv Morgan and Dirty Dominic Mysterio and also Raquel Rodriguez. But they ended up just sitting ringside for the match. So with these three ringside, it was kind of like, I know they're going to get involved. Some way, somehow, they're going to get involved. So actually, for allowing Naomi and Nia to go for a nice amount of time until this actually happened. Tiffany Stratton was actually about to go in and cheat, and then Raquel Rodriguez stopped her. which allowed for Liv Morgan to hop in and help Naomi get the win. So then, of course, it's all got to tie back together somewhere or another. Here comes Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's out here. The crowd's going crazy. She comes out, kind of scares away Liv Morgan, Dominic, and Raquel. So the match was pretty decent. I give the match itself a B, but then you add all the attacks and the interferences at the end, I'll bring it up to a B+. Then after that, DIY and the Street Profits are shown in the back completely yelling at each other. So, of course, Nick Aldis is trying to resolve it, trying to get them to calm down. So eventually, during all of this, Nick Aldis announces that there will be a new tag team on SmackDown next week. And that's all we got at that moment. And then, I don't know if it was earlier or later in the show, they showed a little vignette where it was kind of showing these cars in the street. I'm not going to play it on the screen just for copyright issues and all that. But then if you paused it at the right time, this popped up where it says MCM. What could that stand for? Motor City Machine Guns. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. That has to be who it is. I'm almost 100%. The only other tag team that maybe makes sense would be the Lucha Bros, but I'm almost 100%. It just all adds up to the Motor City Machine Guns. It's almost confirmed that they were signed. So I'm excited for this. And then it cuts to where Kevin Owens is absolutely beating the crap out of Randy Orton. So, of course, here comes our man, Nick Aldis, to try to break up more issues in the back. Now it's time for the main event. Coming out to the ring was Solo Sikoa, and then he was followed up by Jimmy Uso. Match starts. The Solo Sikoa's bloodline is kind of surrounding the ring. They just all on all sides. It's clear that Solo has the advantage. So then after actually a pretty decent match, Jacob Fatu ends up getting into the ring, cheating for Solo Sikoa. So then that leads to Solo Sikoa getting the win. And then, of course, in the Bloodline way, even after the bell, after the match is done, they keep beating on Jimmy Uso. And they just keep taking him down and knocking him out and everything. He's completely laid out. Here comes Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, the OTC. Roman's coming out. He's Superman punching. He's spearing. He's actually taking everybody out. But then eventually they get to him. And then Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns are both laid out. Nobody's in sight to come and help them. No Sami Zayn, no Randy Orton, no Cody Rhodes, no Jey Uso. At this moment, I was truly thinking that it could be possible for Jey Uso to come out, but they don't want to rush it. They don't want to have all this amazing stuff for the storyline to happen within 2 weeks, because then it's just going to get stale up to the pay-per-view. So that's how it ends. I mean, Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso are just laid out in the ring after being taken out by Solo and Tongaloa, Tama Tonga, and, of course, Jacob Fatu. So, I mean, that was smart. That was a very, very good way of boosting the storyline, showing that Solo Sikoa means business. And also a good way to finish off the show. And then it's time for the post-show. They set up for WWE Speed, and then here comes Braun Breaker. He's taking on Cruz del Toro, and the match starts. Of course, another WWE Speed match, so it's going to be a fast match. And some people around me, my dad was saying, oh, it's just going to be one spear and that's the end of the match. But that's not how they did it. Cruz del Toro got some moves in. They actually had some good spots. I actually really enjoyed the match for as long as it was. Like I was saying, if you show a match to a friend, a good short match, just to want them to get them hooked onto wrestling, I think this is a good one. There was some good stuff in that amount of time, and it was only about 1 minute, and I felt like I was satisfied with what I was presented with. But just because I was satisfied and happy with it and thought it was a good match doesn't mean it's going to get an amazing rating. I am going to have to give it a C. So then after the match, Braun Breaker grabs a microphone, and of course, us being here in Greenville, South Carolina, he starts trashing the Clemson Tigers. He's trashing the whole area and all this, and I really love Braun Breaker. I'm a huge Braun Breaker fan, so I was just excited to see him interacting with the fans, getting some heel chants and all this. And then who's here to interrupt him? Main event, Jey Uso. So then Jey and Braun Breaker end up having a dark match. And it was pretty decent. It was all right. I'm going to give it a B-. The crowd was all hyped up for Jey Uso, so it was fun. And then it was time for the dark match, the final dark match that everybody was excited for because they actually let us know that we were going to be getting this dark match later in the show. Here came out Dominic Mysterio. Of course, he's getting boos like crazy. And then here comes the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. They started their match. It was very short, but it was good for the crowd. It was a good way to end it. A nice feel-good moment to go home and be like, at the end, Cody Rhodes hit the crossroads on Dominic Mysterio, and that was the end of the match. I mean, Dominic got some moves in, but it wasn't nothing crazy. I'm going to give the match a C-. And so then, as always, at the end of the show, Cody Rhodes showing his respect to the fans in his babyface way, telling everybody thank you. Thank you for everything. Y'all mean a lot to me and all this. He actually gives away a free weight belt. He gives away one of the turnbuckles, actually. And he ends up talking about how one of his, I think his cousins it was, that worked for WWE Sound Effects and all that. He's just one of the workers around there. He kind of gave him a little shout out, and he pulled off the turnbuckle to give to a fan that was wearing one of the Cody jackets. Then he pulled up this kid that you can see in the photo and gave him a free weight belt. So yeah, he basically just said thank you. He said, I'm going to stay here and sign autographs with all you guys around here until they make me leave, is basically what he said. He basically said, I'm going to sign whatever autographs I can. And that was the end of the show. Great way to end it. Of course, Cody usually has been ending almost every show I've been to recently, which is a good thing. It's a nice way to end it with the babyface champion. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. I had a great day at Smackdown in Greenville.